Hello, everybody. Today we are here for the third day of the second International IT Law Symposium. I am opening the online sessions. First of all, on behalf of the symposium's organizing and academic committee, I would like to express my gratitude by thanking all the people who contribute to the success of this event. I will start from the distinguished guest speakers for sharing their knowledge, their view and experience today with us in this event. We would like to also thank Professor Gülfettin Çelik, who is the rector of Istanbul Medeniyet University, and Professor Nur Zeliha Kaman, who is the dean of the law faculty, for the approval of this event and also for their support for sure. We would like to thank also all supporting institutions and sponsors to make the event more smoother. Additionally, we would like to thank our students, especially for our students' team's enormous effort to make the event possible. Last but not least, we also appreciate all of the attendees who kindly enough to allocate time to be here with us. And as you know, a good event is determined not only with the organizers, also determined by the presence of the participants. As often people say, the more the merrier. My name is Sezen Kama Işık. I'll be moderator for this inclusive and comparative event today as a constitutionalist and human rights academician who is interested in digitalization and its effects on public law. As a moderator, I would like to follow the event posters order. This is because our first speaker is Professor Meryem Cikiya from Georgian Technical University Law Faculty, Law and International Relations Faculty. Her topic is the main challenges of e-elections, pros and cons. We are looking forward to hear Professor Cikiya. You have 15 minutes and thank you.
Once again, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you hear me because I hear you very bad. Hearing is very bad from here. Sezi, your voice was sometimes changing or something. So I hope you can hear me. Technically, it's okay, yes. So I will share my presentation and a little bit about me also to present myself. As my colleague already told you, I am from the Georgian Technical University, Faculty of Law and International Relations. I'm a professor of in between constitutional law and also public international law, because my publications are mostly in public international law, but I also work on the issues related to electoral systems and electoral processes. So today I'm presenting this topic about the e-elections. Just 1 minute. I will share the Okay. Do you see the presentation?
Unfortunately, no, Professor Cikiya.
No, just 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Now, is it shared? Yes, I think so. Yes. As I told, today's topic, which is presented by me, is about the elections. Because, as you know, the transformation of the world era into the digital technologies and also mass communication led to the new levels of different directions, and even in democracy. And especially, it's important to consider everything technological also in electoral processes. Several states have already established the mentioned election system quite well. And ensure the election process entirely with electronic elections. But as for Georgia, Georgia is among the countries which making the progress in the implementation of this electoral process. And as for today, we have this prognosis that parliamentary elections of 2024 already will be totally in electronic format. As for the discussion, it's important to analyze what are the pros and cons for Georgia regarding the electoral elections, and what can be the risks and main challenges which will be important for solving, discussing, and also, as you know, it's also related to some finances. So as for electoral as for the topic, the main aim of research is to determine what is the best practice of electoral elections, and then to examine it, how can be implied in Georgia according to the economic and social and political situation in Georgia. As for the types of electoral elections and procedures, as you know, the electronic elections can be electronic voting and internet voting, and the difference is that electronic voting includes technologies, and internet voting is based totally on website. As for the procedures, it's important to determine in the legislative frame how can be voter identification process managed, voting casting, and also counting and tabulation processes. As for the I-voting, the main importance of internet voting for Georgia is that the migration of the population is very high. For example, the population of Georgia is nearly 3.5 million, a very small number of population of the country, but according to the statistical data of National Agency of Statistics of Georgia, nearly 26% of population is migrated to Europe and United States. So they have some problems regarding the voting process and to examine the right to vote because the electoral districts outside the countries, they are located only in embassies, and they have some problems regarding the communication with embassies, or even change the location of their stay. So internet voting is more relevant for our migrants, who are the main persons who make economic benefits for our country. What is the advantages of internet voting, and we will discuss, and what is the risks which will face Georgia during this internet voting system. As for advantages, the diversity of electoral systems and technologies indicates that there are many technical possibilities for electronic elections. But as I mentioned, internet voting is the main option which Georgia considers to be examined. What are the main challenges, main advantages? Speed and accuracy. First of all, when using electronic technology, the possibility of human error or maybe manipulation decreases in the summary protocols of the results, and also voting and counting machines, individually or integrated ones, can be used, which will decrease the flaws in counting the votes. As for the prevention of fraud, also electronic technologies are essentially and naturally impartial, and it is the feature that makes them credible and effective in the process of preventing the fraud, but also in the long perspective. Voting and counting technologies at the polling station level can prevent the harmful experience of ballot stuffing in ballot boxes, and also electronic voter identification technologies can eliminate the various flaws and can manage multiple voting also. As for cost effectiveness, as you know, the maintenance and developing this process and technologies would be very cost efficient because during the implementation process, it can cost a lot, but in long run, it will decrease the cost of the human resources and also the cost of administrative issues, which is now very high for Georgian national budget. As for inclusiveness, also for those groups of the publics who are unable to reach the polling station, the election administration creates mobile boxes, or maybe during the internet voting, they can use just websites to vote and to make this process more easier for them. As for the risks which can be at the first stage of this implementation process, it can be lack of transparency. Results can be manipulated somehow. There are some security risks also, and foreign interference, and also lack of trust. What I mean individually regarding these risks, lack of transparency, if we begin with that, electoral technologies, unlike all other technologies, have a unique feature to protect the secret of the ballot, the connection between the identity of the voter and also the choice made and between the choice that is made by the voter. If other technologies are designed from the verified for greater reliability, this is not the case in most electronic technologies. For example, in the case of bank transfer via mobile applications, for example, if we are not sure that the transfer was successful, we can check the transaction history, for example. And electronic technologies, due to the secrecy of the ballot, do not maintain this opportunity and this kind of the backup system. In order to provide more transparency, voting and counting machines have been set up in different countries, which leave a paper trail and allow the voter to be instantly convinced of the correct reflection of their votes, their own votes. For example, the United States, under the has invested in the huge and heavily invested in introduction and integrated voting and counting systems and technologies, which has left no paper trail. In Georgia, nowadays it's impossible because of the costs and the opportunities which can be presented in our country. As for cost effectiveness, for example, on average, vote counting machines are known to be cheaper than devices with integrated voting and counting system, and the counting machine can be placed at one or more polling stations, for example, across the districts to count the ballot system. But it's not also the it doesn't cost. It can be more costful for our country. And also the trust problem of society to these technologies are very low in our society. For example, when they are discussing, even governmental party and other opposite parties discussing the opportunities for 2024 elections, about the electronic process. They have some doubts, even expertise, not only population, that there can be a fraud, and the trust is very low within the population who is often involved in this electoral process. As for the turnouts, which is very important for this discussion of this topic, for Georgia, I want to show you this 10-year turnout. Within this 10-year, from 2012 till 2022, we have 5 elections, 2 presidential elections and 3 parliamentary elections. And this pink line shows the registered voters, and the purple line is showing the voters turnout. As you see, the best practices in 2012, because it was caused by the political changes in Georgia, because governmental party was changed, political leaders were changed. So the turnout was nearly 62% of the population. But as
Professor
you see,
I'm sorry for interrupting. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I will sum up. So as you see, this decreasing the numbers of population, I mean turnout, it's like decreasing till 46% from 62. As you see, the problem is not only the approach of the population regarding the electoral systems, but also about the migration system. As I mentioned, we are the nearly 3,050,000 Georgian citizens, but nearly 100,000 in migration. So the migrants are mostly don't have mostly the opportunity to vote in other countries because of this electoral districts, which is only in embassies. So the turnout because of that, it goes down and down. I mean, it decreases. As for the recommendations, what can be done during the implementation of this process, it's the important to make relevant costs, calculate the costs, and to make central election administration more flexible, to make some changes in legislative framework, which is important for implementing the system, and also to make information campaign within the population to make this electoral voting system more efficient than the previous one, which didn't work very well. It's just shortly about the presentation, and if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer it.
Thank you for this fruitful explanation, Professor Gikia. It's a strong start for the rest of the event, showing the understanding of the electronic elections in Georgia, and also its contributions and risks. Particularly in terms of the right to vote, it is utterly and totally significant to find a practical arrangement between, especially in terms of the security and also for the migration process, as you said. And it seems e-voting one of the strong options as a constitutional law perspective from my point of view, especially for Turkey. It should be evaluated with the migration phenomenon, and at the end of the all the presentations, we are getting the question and answer sessions separately, but also if you have any questions, please, all the attendants, you can just write down the chat box, and also I'll direct to the Professor Gikia. Thank you, Professor Gikia, once again.
Thank you.
And now our second speaker is Ms. Kerime Toprak from 1.SESSİON University, England. Ms. Toprak is going to talk about legal fight against ransomware related crimes in the US. You have 20 minutes, Ms. Toprak. We are listening, and thank you.
Thank you. I have uploaded my presentation, but I couldn't see. Yes, now I can see. Hello, my topic is legal fight against ransomware-related crimes in the United States, as you said. This is the plan. Sorry, I should change page. This is the plan of my presentation. In first place, I will introduce to the ransomware and basic concepts about it. Then I will mention about Budapest Convention as an international convention about cybercrime. Then I will mention US situation, why I chose US. Then I will explain US law about this issue. Then there's a short conclusion part. Ransomware is a malware that uses encryption to prevent access to data on the infected machine and paralyzing the computer system. The attacker didn't give a permit until ransom is paid to access files. The most common way of infection is email phishing. In such emails, computer users are directed to click a link to a website or open a file. The malware installation begins when the document is opened. This step takes place behind the screen, therefore users cannot understand its starts. Second way is remote desktop control. It is also used for legal purposes, but these are network protocols that provide to control the computer over the internet. But this type of remote desktop protocols are selling in darknet markets generally to provide access illegally. Software vulnerabilities are also a door for criminals. Attackers can exploit security weaknesses in software programs. When we look history of the ransomware, its first sample dates back to 80s, but the prevalence of this crime is quite recent. The first ransomware attack was heard in 1999 and targeted the healthcare industry. After a long range, ransomware appeared again in 2005. CryptoLocker spotted in 2013. The impact of the pandemic on development of ransomware attacks is undeniable. In 2020, which is the year of the pandemic, is also seen as the year of the ransomware. There are two main types of ransomware. First type is Docker ransomware. The items in the storage unit remain untouched in this type of ransomware, and metaphorically only the door is locked. In this case, victims have other options to regain access because it is easy to open just a door. But when we came crypto ransomware, in this case, attacker encrypts whole files on the target system. So the computer is still usable, but the files and data, the victim cannot access this data. This type of ransomware uses a special encryption method, which making nearly not possible to avoiding payment. As can be seen from the ransomware infection process and other details, this malware is the result of a technical knowledge, but this information doesn't always belong to the attacker. The criminals work together, and according to research, in most cases, the attacker and the person who created the ransomware are different. Due to the developments in the crime market, some people offer ransomware service, ransomware as a service, or some kits to provide easiness to attack computers. When we came Budapest Convention, it has aimed to harmonize legal standards, improve investigation process, and international cooperation. While this convention promotes harmonization, it leaves sanctions to the discretion of countries. There is no direct article for ransomware in Budapest Convention, but there are articles which are applicable to ransomware. The articles between 2 and 8 can applicable to ransomware in some cases, but especially Article 4 and 5 is very connected with ransomware. These articles are about data and system interference. According to these articles, the obligation to take the necessary measures to criminalize the determined acts is left to the parties, states, and countries. When we came to US has a great difference with even second country which has high volume of ransomware. When we look graph, we can see easily the situation of the US. This graph's from a Sonic Ball report. I was right, but I couldn't find. In this country, I encountered the huge ransomware cases like Colonial Pipeline. And besides that, there are too many minor cases. It's nearly 3,000, I guess, if I not remember wrong. Secondly, US has a clear fight against ransomware because, because they see ransomware as a national security problem. The attacks are seen connected with sanctioned states, which like Russia or North Korea, and they fight ransomware like a national security problem. Today, I will focus US federal law generally, because there are also state laws about this issue. First law, which I will mention, Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. I will shortly mention about Economic Espionage Act, and the new one, Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act, is also important. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act is based on civil and criminal liabilities of cybercrime. It is sometimes named as untaking law. Again, there is no direct article for ransomware, but the article 1030A7 is applicable to ransomware. Especially part C, is directly about ransomware. It is mentioning demand or request for money or other thing of value in relation to damage to a protected computer. But near this article, prosecutors and Department of Justice may also prosecute ransomware attackers under other subsections, such as provisions prohibiting trespass into government computers, or criminalizing various actions causing intentional damage to protected computers. The most important difference of the application in US Computer Fraud and Abuse Act and Budapest Convention is in the US the profit is highlighted. I will pass second act. It's about International Emergency Economic Powers Act and Trading with the Enemy Act. This is about sanctioned states. Paying people from the sanctioned state is a crime in the United States. And most ransomware cases are seen connected with somebody in sanctioned states, such as Russia or North Korea. According to authority of, if a victim knowingly pays ransom to a sanctioned state to save their files, is it punishable? This is a question still have arguments on it, but the authority, the Office of Foreign Assets Control in the U.S. Department of Treasury published an advisory about it, and they said, yes, it is punishable. It's also a payment to sanctioned states. Therefore, it's still in the process. There's no federal law about this issue, but according to this acts, any payment is punishable. Therefore, there's a threat about it on victims.
Ms. Toprak, sorry for interrupting. You have 3 minutes more.
Okay. This punishment is there are criticisms about this punishment because this type of criminalization can cause avoiding notification and not verifying the identity of the criminal group can make problems worse. I will come. Sorry, I pass. I think one of them. Okay, this law is isn't effective now because it's in rulemaking process. In the March 2022, U.S. President Biden has signed this act, and by the mentioning critical infrastructure is about systems and assets. So it had to the United States that the damage of such systems and assets would have an unbearable impact on security, such as health care systems or nuclear things. Reporting duties for cyber incidents is 72 hours. Reporting duties for ransomware payment is 24 hours. The criminal liability is not determined yet about this act, but there is wide powers in terms of regulation in this issue to Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. There are also other laws which are applicable to ransomware. For example, Department of Justice has relied on other laws like Economic Espionage Act or Aiding and Abetting Statute. There are also state laws. For example, North Carolina and Florida have banned, there are other states also, ransomware payments. Michigan accepts ransomware as a contraband to block heavy ransomware. Conclusions, I have already mentioned it. If we have limited time, I have already mentioned it in my presentation. There are different laws applicable to this crime in the US. It's in progress, and just thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Toprak, for your enthusiasm and for your understanding on the topic, especially for detailed presentation on ransomware-related crimes and the U.S. understanding on it as a significant example. And now our third speaker is Dr. Rosa Jumabekova from Kazakhstan Yasanov University. Dr. Jumabekova will show us the role of IT in activating anti-corruption potential of civil society, which is a really hot topic. And you have 15 minutes, Dr. Jumabekova, and thank you. We won't hear Dr. Jumabekova.
Just a second, ladies. Trying to sort it out. Okay, so please confirm that you can see my presentation. Yes?
Yes.
Great. So thank you very much for this opportunity to present my research topic. Yes, so today I would like to present the short part of the huge research which we've been doing at our university last 2 months. Yes, so the topic is the role of IT in activating anti-corruption potential of civil society. So the aim of my research, the aim of our research, because we are a group of researchers here at university, is to analyze the use of IT technology of anti-corruption potential in improving the system of adaptation of individual. So the practice of applying the IT technology is analyzed, and also its application is also scientifically and methodologically applied, methodologically acknowledged. Sorry. So the existence of the corruption is, and also it was and it will be a problem of any country, including the Kazakhstan. So beyond the beyond the controversy that the democratic institutions that have developed in the Republic of Kazakhstan, they are incompatible with the facts of corruption. So the problems arising from the corruption threatening the sustainable and safe development of society. So accordingly, the democratic transformations being implemented in Kazakhstan, they are impossible without a system that effectively functions in the fight against all manifestations of corruption, also at the all levels of corruption. So the relevance of this study is the fact that the creation of a constitutional state and also the development of civil society implies universal human priorities. So the first measures, So the first measures to prevent the corruption in Kazakhstan began after our independence. So since 1991. So since then we've got the first one is the decree of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan on measures to strengthen the fight against the organized crime and corruption, 1992. And later, it's a law of the Republic of Kazakhstan on the fight against corruption. So because we are short of the time, the last one is the anti-corruption strategy of the Republic of Kazakhstan, which is on at the moment. So based on these legislations, anti-corruption policy of the Kazakhstan is purposely actively to counter the manifestation of corruption, and corruption in turn is like a real serious threat to the national security of our country, and it creates the obstacles to the functioning of public authorities on the basis of law and legislation, and also it slows down the economic development of our state. So I'm sorry for. So corruption in Kazakhstan reached the high level, which violates the principles of equality and social justice. It creates the difficulties in the economic development of the Kazakhstan, and in addition, corruption undermines the public's confidence in the authorities and significantly delays the economic development of Kazakhstan. Anti-corruption legislation creates the conditions for the effective fight against corruption. But in order to move from the theory to practice, it's necessary like a political will and also effective functioning and coordination of the governmental bodies, related to anti-corruption duties, and as well as the activation of anti-corruption work in state in general. So according to the anti-corruption monitoring, which is called the according to the monitoring, which is called the Adaldık Alanı, so the most effective forms of the public participation in combating the corruption, they are public investigations into the corruption, and also public control and public monitoring of the administrative practices in areas with a high corruption risks. However, as our study shows, that the most effective measures to combat the corruption is strengthening the public control over the activities of the government bodies. But unfortunately, it has been poorly implemented in Kazakhstan nowadays. So me and my colleagues are trying to make a research and provide the recommendations in this field. So with the development of the digital society, the number of international studies on the role of information and computer technologies or IT technologies as tools for the fight against the corruption is increasing, actively increasing. So the results of the studies of the relationship between the introduction of innovative technologies in the public sector and the level of corruption indicated the reduction in the number of corruption facts in the existence of e-government. So based on our research or study, based on our study, we can say that the use of IT technology for the development of anti-corruption legal awareness, for the it improves the quality, and the quality at this stage is the protection of the rights and legitimate interest of the our citizens, which is the main priority or the main duty of our government. So the realization of the potential of information IT technologies in the practice of combating the corruption depends on the political, social, economic, and technical aspects. So the important factors are access to the internet, identification and confidentiality. So the cost of implementing information technology. So in our university, me and my colleagues, we are trying to present the like a classification of possible corruption offenses with the use of IT technology, propose the corruption offenses. So with the use of IT technology, proposing our system for evaluating the effectiveness of the fight against the corruption. So by analyzing the like international practice, the study of IT technology while activating the anti-corruption potential of civil society, as well as the practice of the application will increase the authority of the Republic of Kazakhstan in the eye of international community, and it shows the effectiveness of the formation of anti-corruption worldview, and strong moral foundations of persons and citizens and human being in general. So the social effect of the study lies in the fact that the use of new IT technologies while activating the anti-corruption potential of social society, it will help to attract the non-state media to the formation of anti-corruption worldview, and also popularize the participations of the population in combating the corruption. So in this case, a successful anti-corruption policy is impossible without fundamental shifts in public, in group, and individual, without serious positive corrections in the rules of conduct, not only for such target groups as civil servants, but also for the citizens themselves. So the role of the community in combating the corruption. So the problem of this study is not only the how to involve the civil society in constructive anti-corruption activities, but also how to unite the efforts of all the individuals and the organizations, government, in the formation of anti-corruption, like a coalition of civil society and partnership with authorities. So this is briefly about my research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jumabekova, and also thank you for the timing, and also congratulations for your comprehensive research and for this fruitful explanation on the use of IT technologies as a solution for combating corruption. It is really significant topic for the countries. And now it is time for the last speaker. Dr. Samet Tatar is a faculty member of Ankara Yıldırım Beyazıt University. His headline is, "How should social media platforms be regulated under the US law?" And platforms' responsibility, as you know, has two faces. One is directly related freedom of speech as a human rights lawyer, I must say. One is directly related the freedom of speech, and it's a hot debate nowadays, especially in our country also. And the other is e-commerce and platform responsibility. As an administrative law expert, Dr. Tatar will give us information on the relation between regulation and social media. You have 15 minutes, Dr. Tatar, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Işık. I would like to thank you to you, like the personally, and the whole organizers, like the working really hard at like the Istanbul Medeniyet University School of Law, and then lovely students as well. My name is Samet Tatar. I am an assistant professor teaching cyber law courses at Ankara Yıldırım Beyazıt University School of Law. After graduating from the law school in Istanbul, I moved to the United States to pursue my LLM and an SJD Science Juris Doctorate from like the different like the law school institutions. And I do mostly teach like the cyber law courses at like my university. I do teach artificial intelligence law, internet law, social media, disinformation law, information communication and technology law. Today, I would like to talk about the social media platforms, like the responsibility, more specifically about how to regulate fake news and disinformation in the US. For today's like the presentation structure, I would like to talk about a little bit background, like I want to give you guys like a little bit like the trends, like the global trends in a comparative studies relating to the combating fake news and disinformation in social media law and legislations generally. And then I'm gonna jump to the US approach, in which we'll see there is like no federal like the legislation yet. And because of the constitutional restrictions relating to the freedom of expression and freedom of thought, the legislative efforts are pretty limited. And then before the conclusion, I would like to give some basic recommendations like the arising coming from the US federal and like the state law perspective. As you have already noted that approximately 2/3 of the world's population actively access to the information by using social media channels every single day. Social media platforms are actually inevitable platforms to communicate each other, like for the humans, like the race. Well, in the meantime, how to regulate and then how to supervise of the advanced AI based like the technologies in this like the sectors such as in big data, telecommunications, and social media platforms, especially with these functions and compliance as well, become crucial areas, both legislative and then administrative like the authorities as well. The question always comes: who should be regulated to the social media? How should like the social media be regulated? Especially, I'm pretty sure you may have already heard that the CEO of like the Twitter, the new owner of the Twitter, actually, Elon Musk, like to ask like the users whether it is okay to get like the former president, like the US President Trump, to back to the like the Twitter stage. It is a very obvious example to see who is in charge right now of like the making decisions whether former president, like the former president of the United States, President Trump, would be able to tweet like the freely on like the Twitter. Because of the new owner, it seems like the likely for the Trump's administration to Trump's campaign to come back to the Twitter. But here's the thing, like the why do we have to work on the US approach? That's the question. Basically, the developments, social media developments in these fields and regulation and legal practice are actually observed by the EU and many developing countries as well. The reason is very simple. most headquarters of the social media companies are actually located in the US, which means the US law is mostly applied to the extraterritorial issues on an international level. In the meantime, social media law, because of its nature, it does require practice of interdisciplinary and then comparative law perspective. And also, as I have already mentioned, that it has been determined that disinformation and fake news have spread more rapidly in the last 10 years with the technological developments and political movements as well. Although fake news or disinformations haven't been like the new topics, people like the civil societies have been discussing those topics for even like the 1,000 years. But because of advanced technologies, like the humans do take advantage right now, you know, regulating to the disinformation has become a very crucial hot topic. Well, you know, there are some trends in the social media, like the literature, we should be focusing on a little bit. Generally, like, you know, the first trend is like the simply to punish disinformation and fake news stream transaction in terms of criminal law. And it could be also subject to the administrative sanction, like the relating to the administrative law for the compensation, the damages, like those platforms, like the cows. In fact, legal studies on the fake news, like the digital platforms in comparative law and court law cases, in the common law approach, like the Anglo-American law approach, have become a discipline with its own dynamics and an application area with the subtitle of fake news disinformation in the digital platforms and then social media laws as well. Well, here's the thing. In Ireland and in Germany, there are some like the legislation in which the owner of the owner of those social media platforms or the representatives might be even facing some like criminal like the sanctions, and also they might be asked like to pay X amount of the administrative fines as well. And Professor Işık, like the mention, I guess, in the beginning of the presentation, Turkey has already passed like the legislation, which is pretty debatable whether the legislation has been providing sufficient legal tools to kind of protect like against like the Turkish like the citizens' needs, like to combat against like the fake news as well. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the US. The main debate in the US is simply whether even fake news can be protected within the scope of freedom of thought and expression, and even wider freedom of association and expression. In general, like the terms in the comparative law, the US is a very interesting like the monkey, where like the freedom of thought and expression is mostly like the broad, like the define and protect. First, under the First Amendment of the US, like the Constitution, it does constitute the basic premise of the freedom of thought and expressions. Therefore, lawmakers, which means like the Senate and then Congress, actually cannot, as an important rule, engage in the legislative activities that will allow to the states to restrict like the freedom of thought and expression. Well, in the meantime, the US, because of the flexibility of like the common law structure, the US Supreme Court has made limited exceptions to the main rule. Well, at this point, laws and regulations relating to these areas within the scope of combating fake news in the nature of internet-based media have actually failed and then are still undergoing. In the US, the independent regulatory government agency, which is titled the Federal Communication Commission, the FCC, is actually the government body responsible for regulating social media. However, because of the First Amendments, the Constitution actually prevents the Commission from exercising greater authority over the content like the posted online. Regulation of the other like the media platforms like the, such as broadcasting actually have been subject to the constitutional debates in the context of the landmark for the Supreme Court cases for almost like the 40 years. But for the social media perspective, however, there's a loophole to the First Amendment restrictions found in the Section 230 of the Communication Act, which is a federal act. Under the Section 230 states that companies, social media companies, like the mostly internet companies, are actually not liable for illicit or otherwise objectionable content posted by users on their platforms if they make a good faith attempt to remove it. Well, as you guys see here, it's a very tricky thing because there's actually no clear definition of good faith means. Well, the definition mostly comes from the court decisions. We call it precedents in the common law, like the section. Legislation actually, in this scenario, intended for this good Samaritan provision, which allows flexibility for platforms to create their content freely without immediate legal like the restrictions. In addition, under the section, the Section 230 actually grants same immunity to the both neutral platforms that host content and publishers that create their own. In other words, those like the platforms actually are not liable at all to remove or not to remove those fake news, which is a very interesting like the approach while comparing that like the approach with the EU approach or the Chinese approach or the Turkish approaches as well. There's an important case like the coming to the literature in 2012 relating to the combating against like the fake news. The case is actually called like the Alvarez case. This is like a landmark decision in which basically the US Supreme Court ruled that the Stolen Valor Act was not unconstitutional. Long story short, the US Supreme Court was actually highlighting that for the rationalizing perspective of the whole like the case, there are some fundamental beneficial, there are some fundamental benefits even coming from fake news. That's why the government actually is in charge of even protecting like the fake news instead of restricting or limiting or blocking those type of like the legislation in which like the basically under the policymaker, the lawmakers passed the legislation called Stolen Valor Act of the 2005, in which like the federal law actually was like trying to criminalize false statement about having a military medal. In the meantime, the Supreme Court thought that would be a disaster to do it. Therefore, after the Alvarez case, most like the social media companies kind of got encouraged by the decision of the Supreme Court, like not to stop like the fake news as well. So, well, and also, well, think about that way. Nobody's actually like coming and standing with like the spreading with the idea in which it could be fine to spread the fake news, right? That's why like the social media companies kind of created like their own self-regulatory legal tools. I'm pretty sure, you guys may have seen already like on Twitter. Sometimes Twitter is just highlighting like, those like the fake, those news might be fake news. Or think about like your Facebook accounts in which like the Facebook is actually showing, or like let's say the news you would like to share that might be funded by the Turkish government or by the British government or by the Georgian government directly. Those type of like the self-regulatory mechanisms actually might be as effective as like the some countries hardcore legislations and regulations as well. In the meantime, I wasn't able to talk about the state level legislation actually promoting digital literacy in my presentation, but especially states like California could be an interesting like the example to see how states are actually in charge of like are required to promote digital literacy. Most developing countries, lawmakers kind of lack of, or most people like in some specific ages or in some specific educational like the background are actually lack of like the digital like the literacy. The last thing I want to talk about is simply like the coming from simply transparency initiatives, also coming from as an important legal tool relating to the account verification system in the US. Today, I was just like, you know, trying to give you guys like a quick summary about how to combat like against like the fake news and disinformation in the US, where there's no federal like the legislation kind of banning like the fake news at all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tatar. We closed the first online session quite strongly, thanks to you. Particularly nowadays, it is quite hot debate here in Turkey, as we told. Under the latest changes umbrella, we will be talking about the regulation, social media and disinformation relations in coming days. And thank you for this inclusive, comparative and informative presentation once again. And now we are moving questions and answer sessions. We are taking your questions in written in chat box and as comments on YouTube. Now we are waiting for the questions. I guess all the presenters make smooth and really inclusive presentations. So this is because there is no questions. And actually, I would like to personally thank all the distinguished speakers for this detailed and instructive presentations. And you can watch all the online sessions via YouTube channel of IT Law Association. And now it's moving the second part of the online sessions. Please be ready for it and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.